Hi everyone, I'm Mike Dobrota. I'm the Managing Director of TerraQuip Drilling Equipment. We've had the company for 8 years now, and last year we also started the TerraQuip Talk podcast. Now this is the podcast where we're trying to give a voice to our industry. So if you want to participate, if you have something to talk about, please hit me up. Come right here in the studio. Let's have a chat about it, a discussion between professionals. Or if you have a topic that you want me to tackle, I love talking about this stuff, right? So please give us a like, send us a message, send us some good words, hopefully, and we can't wait to hear from you. Cheers. Hey everyone, welcome back to TerraQuip Talk. It's great to have you with me, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch us and listen to this almost every week. You see, last year in June, I've made a pledge to start a podcast and to do one episode of half an hour each episode each week. And we've done it. I promised myself that if I started, I need to continue with it for at least 12 months. That's a total of about 50 episodes to talk approximately for half an hour each time. And you know what? It hasn't been easy. The time, the energy, the resources I put into this podcast have taken a bit of a toll, I have to be honest, because I'm so bloody busy otherwise. It's just I didn't need another project, but I wanted to do it. And you know what? I'm glad that I did it. And I will continue to try my best to do it basically and improve on this, the information, the delivery, the guests that I bring here every week. And hopefully you find this informational and beneficial in some ways. The question is why? Why do a podcast? Why put my time and resources into this? Because it's not easy. I'm certainly not doing it because of the views. Let me tell you this. If I wanted views, I would have hired a bunch of girls to wash my rig, my piling rig, Sorry. There are many reasons. Anyway, joke aside, there are many reasons why I want to do this. First of all, I really love what I do. So therefore, I love talking about it, right? It makes sense. Number two, I feel like the industry has given me tremendously over the years. And I want to give back the knowledge. I want to give back the support, the inspiration, hopefully. The people, the guests that come here sometimes and have a chat to us are really inspirational, have really inspirational stories to share, and I think it's really interesting to hear them. Number three, whilst preparing for this episode, it gives me the chance to learn and consolidate the knowledge that I have gathered over the last 15 years in the industry, more than 15 years now, 16 years. And number four, it gives me the chance to talk about the capability of our valuable suppliers, IMT, Marini, Hatlapa, Klein, because I truly believe they deserve all the attention and consideration of our clients, of you, because we genuinely believe they can help you with your equipment to achieve the targets, to complete your projects, and basically to make money, right? Let's face it, we're in it for the money, not the honey. Simple as that. So we started a supplier. The way we do it, we support them. We give them all the information necessary to adapt to the market that we sell because each market is different, right? Let's face it. And reason number five, because it gives our clients the chance to come and share their experience with our gear, right? And last but not least, it gives me the chance to share the knowledge with the people that maybe have just joined the industry or maybe considering a career in drilling. And with that, I'd like to dedicate today's episode to talk about different types of CFA machines out there and different configurations depending on the model, the size, the brand, right? And also when it comes to the conversion from Kelly-to-CFA. I was thinking recently about CFA setups, right? So that's continuous Flight Auger technology, right? And how much variation you actually see when you start looking at different machines there in different brands. I wanted to do a deep dive today and figured a great way to break this is if I just look at the IMT lineup from the smallest one, from the A45 all the way up to A290, we've got some really distinct setups as you move through their weight classes. And it's pretty fascinating to see when you look at the mechanisms and how they get their, let's say, pullback force, their crowd force. Because in CFA, it's mainly three things, right? It's rotary torque, of course, it's pullback force, and it's also crowd force. In terms of brands and who can do CFA, yes, pretty much any brand out there can have their models set up in CFA. But the question is, can they do it successfully? Can they have the right performance and the experience to roll out a good CFA machine? You see, when I started with IMT 8 years ago, they were certainly not a machine known for their CFA capabilities. I mean, yes, they did have some units that were drilling in CFA, especially in the States, but definitely not being their specialty. Because like with anything, you need a huge amount of experience to trial, test, polish a product before it becomes great. So with IMT over the last 8 years, especially in Australia, we have worked tirelessly to improve their range of products and their configuration, their capability in CFA, as well as pretty much every single component of the CFA kit. I mean, we improved the snorkel, we improved the swivel, the foot, mast extension, you name it, right? Let me give you some examples. With the snorkel, instead of 2 locking points, we told them that, hey, how about we have 3 locking points? So if someone needs to go up the snorkel, let's say 1 meter, they don't have to travel the entire 6 meters, right? So to make it faster. Then the swivel with the greasing channels, right? They were a little bit too small or they were choke, and then they would overpressurize the seals. We improved that as well. We helped them, with the experience that we have in Australia. Then the front of all distance with the swan neck. Instead of pointing in front, we found a way to make it point to the side because, of course, if you point it to the side, you have all of these restrictions. But we found a way to actually overcome that. The shape of the plate of the foot, for example, which before it was round, but then there's a certain size and shape of the foot, they can be very, very effective. Obviously, I won't have the time right now to go through all of the improvements that we've done, but that was just to give you some examples. I was actually on a job site a few weeks ago, and I was looking at this new brand that came to Australia. They never had a machine in Australia before, and they had a machine in CFA, like a 20-ton machine. And I was on site and I was looking at it, and it was a massive problem. It can be very, very risky with the reaction bar. So I called the client straight away, and I called the supplier, and I said, guys, you got to make sure that you secure that reaction bar in a different way, because if that falls from there, you can be in serious trouble. I mean, it weighs about 200-300 kilos. Imagine if it falls from 10-15 meters high, it can kill someone. It can be fatal. So at that point, it's not about competition anymore. It's not about, oh, I wish they mess up, so I can get that client. No, it becomes about safety, and it's super important. That's what I mean with experience. You can actually develop and polish product to be safe, first of all. Because in CFA, you've got the entire weight of the auger. You have the rotary on the top. On top of that, you've got the snorkel, which is another 6, 7, 8 meters, whatever their snorkels are there, 8 meters. I think it's totally useless if you ask me anyway, to use a snorkel that's 8 meters, but anyway. And then on top of that, you have the swan neck and then all the weight from the concrete hose. The stability is super important, and the safety of all the components to make sure that nobody gets hurt. Hey guys, just a second. I just want to say this. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this episode, to listen to us every single week. It gives us immense pleasure to talk about our industry. We want to give a voice to our industry here. So if you enjoy this, if you find this interesting, please hit that like button, share with someone, subscribe. All of this helps us a lot. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. Now let's get on with the episode. But now let's just talk about each individual model from IMT and what sort of CFA configuration they have, and also what sort of pull down capacity, right? When it comes to pull down capacity, believe it or not, a lot of the brands in the past didn't have any sort of pull down. They used to rely solely on the weight of the assembly. So rotary, auger, snorkel, swan neck, all of that combined makes, let's say, 4 tons of rotary plus the auger, another 2 tons, the snorkel, another 1 ton, let's say altogether, let's say 10 tons. It was like 10 tons, that's it. We rely on that weight to penetrate the ground, as well as the corkscrew effect of the auger, right? They didn't have any pull down winch. Later on, they actually started introducing either a crowd winch to create a crowd force or a separate pull down winch. Now, why is it important to have crowd force, especially in places like Sydney? I think Sydney is the perfect example for it, because we've got sand, and then all of a sudden, which is quite soft, and then all of a sudden you're in sandstone. Or let's say you need to do the rock socket. You don't want to drill 7 minutes through sand to like 12 meters and then the last 1 meter of the rock socket to take you half an hour. You want to drill it pretty quick. So then having that extra force, it helps with the production tremendously. Now, another issue that arises from having a separate pull-down winch or a crowd winch on a machine is the synchronicity that needs to be achieved between the main winch and the crowd winch. When the crowd winch winds, the main winch needs to unwind, needs to release. And vice versa, when the main winch pulls, the crowd winch or the pull-down winch needs to release. Now, this used to be a big problem in the past. 15, 20 years ago, they used to struggle a lot with the synchronicity of the winches. As soon as you would tell a technician that I have a machine with a pull-down winch in CFA, they'll be like, oh my God, not this shit again. But let's start with the latter models of the IMT. For example, the A45 in CFA. The A45 is a 17-ton class machine, initially made for Kelly-bar. It's Eurocomac base. As many models in this range there, it's based on Eurocomac because it's got that extendable undercarriage. It's got the power. It's a fantastic little power unit, right? It's also the only one in its class that comes with a parallelogram rather than just a boom. So very, very good, very proven in Kelly-bar. Now we're actually doing the CFA kit for it, and in June or July we're gonna have the CFA kit for it as well. So for the CFA configuration, it runs a 2-par line pull, which is pretty standard, right? Reliable setup for that size. And what that par line means is basically it means that the rope from the main winch goes up to the cat head, goes through the cat head into the rotary. In the rotary, it's got a sheave, and then it goes up again into the, let's say, cat head or on the top of the mast. So there's 2 lines pull it, therefore the 2-par line pull system. Now, considering that the main winch is about 5-6 tons pull, because it sheaves up twice, it gives you about 12-ton capacity, which is pretty solid for what a machine of that size is designed to do, because that will give you about, let's say, 10 meters in CFA, give or take. Now, in terms of the pull-down system on the A45, it's just a small winch that's situated on the side of the rotary that sheaves up twice. So it goes down to the bottom of the mast, and then it's got a system of pulleys, and then it connects into the rotary. So as the pull-down winch winds, it pushes the rotary down while the main winch releases, right? So it's a pretty simple. The pull-down capacity, I think it's about 4 to 5 ton on that machine. Then we step it up. We have the F75 because it's Doosan base. So A75 was actually still an AMT base. That was a while back. We discontinued that model because we have the A90 or the F75. So there was no need to have that. But anyway, F75 Doosan base machine, approximately 25 ton machine, again has a very similar setup with a 2-par line pull. It achieves about 14 meters in CFA, and it has a total pullback capacity of about 18 tons. Works very similarly to the A45. Goes up the mast, down into rotary, and then back up the mast. And then with the pull-down winch, again, the same setup. It's on the side of the rotary, goes into a pulley system, and then it goes up into the rotary. The tricky part with this is, we've noticed it before with other brands, you got to have a pulley system that's fully protected. Because if the pulleys are uncovered, all that material that's being excavated, it will inadvertently go into the pulley. Rocks, sand, concrete, things like that will damage the rope really quick, and also the pulleys. So it's very, very important to have the protection where the rope comes into the pulley to be completely sealed as well as it comes out. Now, where things change a little bit is when we go to the A90, and this is our flagship. In Australia, I think we saw like 5 or 6 of them. Majority of them in winch cross system. And why? Because it's an advanced winch cross system with the winch on the back of the mast. And when you convert into CFA, it's extremely fast conversion. Don't get me wrong, A45 and A75, they're pretty easy to convert as well because they're small machines. But when you talk about 30-ton class and above, you want to have a winch cross system because it's much easier to convert it in CFA, especially if you're tackling this market. If you want to tackle the low headroom market, it's a totally different story, because then it's indicated that you have a cylinder crowd system with short hoses, so it's a lot easier to convert in low headroom. But when you talk about Kelly-to-CFA, much better to have a winch crowd system, right? So how does the winch crawl system work on the A90? Well, it's a standard. We're moving away from the standard 2 power line pull, although we have that set up as well, like we had on the A70. But in this case, is the main winch goes up the mast, connects directly, the cathead lifts, so sends the rope directly into the rotary to pull, as well as the rotary is already connected to the crawl winch. So you have what's called the combined line pull. So the rotary, so the main winch gives you approximately, let's say 12, it gives you 12 ton of pullback capacity. The crawl winch gives you about 12 ton as well of crawl force. So combined line pull, you get about 28 to 22 tons of pullback capacity. It's a really clever way to maximize the pull force without overcomplicating the reeving system on the mast. And here, because I like to talk about different brands and observe what they do, the absolute champions of this, of winch crawl system and combined line pull, of course, are the Germans. They have a really, really nice setup with the main winch, crawl winch, and an auxiliary winch, all on the mast. So what that achieves is a very simple setup, very efficient, a lot of weight on the front, but that's okay. They're heavy machines anyway, especially when you talk about 60 and 80 ton class. And all that weight on the mast is what happens is it benefits the stability as well, to have all that weight on the tool. Not stability as in balance, stability as in like all the weight on the tool. So that's a really smart design. I really love the way that's designed. We have the crawl winch on the back, or for example, on some models, we're going to talk about it on the A140, is on the at the front of the mast. In terms of the combined line pull, for example, on the A90, we have a very, very efficient system where you can literally convert the machine on the job site from Kelly-to-CFA in less than 5 hours. I mean, all you got to do is remove the Kelly bar, lift the cat head, connect the main winch rope to the rotary with a direct line. It connects into a swivel. Then introduce your reduction sleeve in the rotary, because obviously the snorkel is a lot skinnier than the Kelly bar. Then introduce the snorkel, connect it to the swivel and the swan neck, install the guides, and that's it. Everything is done. So it's a lot easier. But then if we move into the, let's say, A140, for instance, which is a 40-ton class machine, here things are a little bit different, because what happens is you've got a 4-power line CFA. So inherently, the A140 is a pull-down cylinder machine, right? It was designed for Kelly bar, very hard rock drilling, simplicity, robustness, and things like that, right? But we can install it, we can convert it into CFA as well. The conversion, though, takes 2 days. And what's complicated about it is the fact that you need to install a different main winch rope and sheave it up 4 times. So it's a 4-power line pull setup. But you see there's advantages with this one too. It's extremely capable. Yes, it takes longer to set up, but when it comes to drilling and capability, it's fantastic. Because then what do you need? Do you want a machine that converts and transports well, or do you want a machine that drills well? Right? It really depends on the type of projects you need to do. If they're long projects, yes, 4-power lines, CFA is fantastic, gives you great capability. But when it comes to, let's say you have a job in Kelly bar, then you got to convert for 2 weeks in CFA, then back in Kelly bar, then yes, a winch crawl system machine is much more appropriate. In some cases, you look at some brands out there, I'm not going to give names, of course. For example, with the German brands, they're very, very conservative when it comes to the numbers. They're all about safety, the stability. They don't give you unrealistic figures. But then the figures that they give you, you can actually rely on them. You can actually achieve those numbers in CFA, for example. But other brands out there, Jesus Christ, you look at the numbers and, with like a 30-ton class machine, you can achieve 24 meters CFA. And it's like, there's no risk factor. There's no safety coefficient in mind, let's say, right? Because let's face it, it doesn't cost anything to put something on a catalog, right? It's good marketing, isn't it? But with IMT, for example, we promise people 90 meters of CFA on the A140 4-power line pull. We achieve 17.4 meters. But at what diameter? We promised them 750. We achieved 900. We even told them, look, 900, we wouldn't do it, right? IMT is very conservative like that. But the client said that, don't worry, I know the machine. I can feel the machine. I have good operators. And in fact, there's a video, you can see it here, 17.4 meters depth in Kensington and Victoria with 900 diameter. We didn't even have the bloody gates. They had to build the gates for 900 diameter, right? So be very careful. I tell everybody, be very mindful of what the catalog says and their disclaimers, right? Because of course they'll say, if they achieve 60% of the depth, they'll say, oh, no, but that's depends on the ground conditions. It's not in all the grounds, which is true. It does depend on the ground conditions. I agree. You can't just guarantee any sort of depth and diameter there, any capability, but at least have some sort of, I guess, risk factor and safety allowance, Now, I was saying about the A140, and I want to underline here, it's an absolute beast for CFA. Although it was not designed for CFA. The complete change setup here, the 4-point line pull, so essentially the main winch, as I said, shifts up 4 times. So the mechanical advantage you get about this, because it shifts up 4 times, you get up to about 60-ton capacity. That's a massive amount of pullback when it comes to CFA. And you can see here how it pulls 900 diameter from 17.4 meters with the snorkel pretty much fully into the ground. You can see how it pulls here without even dropping an RPM. Now, the reason why I wanted to highlight those differences here today is because of a lot of the times we just look at the overall weight class of a rig and forget how to look at how the manufacturing is actually engineering the extraction force, the pull down capacity, whether it's a 2-power line pull or a combined heavy-duty 4-power line configuration. Each rig is really solving the same problem in its own unique way. Now, let's talk a little bit about the A140, because I think we sold about 6 units in this configuration, a winch crowd system. And I'm going to be the first one to say, because of the way the crowd winch is placed in front of the mast under the rotary, and the way it's encapsulated there, it's got that metal casing and 24 mil rope. It's a double actioning winch. It's not as easy to convert, right? It's still a combined line pull machine. It's still a winch crowd system, but the conversion takes about 3 days. It's a little bit more difficult, right? So I want to discuss a little bit about the advantages and what was the philosophy with this A140 and why it was designed like that. We also have the A140, by the way, that has, we call it the advanced winch crowd system, which has the winch on the back of the mast, same like the A90 setup, right? And that's a lot easier, right? You don't need to, when you convert from Kelly-to CFA, it's only 1 day, let's say, conversion. It's a lot easier to do. But there's a disadvantage with that one. You see, when we introduced onto the market this 60-ton machine in winch crowd system, people wanted competitive price. So if our competitor was 1.5 million, we were 1 million. So clients are like, wow, I can have a winch crowd system machine, and it's a 60-tonner, and it's an Italian machine for 1 million, for $500,000 less. That's fantastic. Let's go for it. But there's a disadvantage with that, and that was in the conversion times. Why is that? Well, it's simply cheaper because the ropes are in front of the mast. So because of that, when you go to CFA, you actually have to have a different extension of the mast. Once you put the extension of the mast, you need to manipulate the rope length, right? So it becomes a lot more difficult to convert. If the winch crowd system is on the back, it balances the forces between the front of the mast and the back of the mast. Then the mast length stays the same between Kelly and CFA. So therefore, the conversion is a lot quicker. Add to that, for example, automatic tensioning cylinders for tensioning and detensioning the rope when you go from transfer mode to working mode. Add to that the fact that you don't have those annoying pulleys at the bottom of the mast in front of the mast. It's a huge advantage, right? So yes, it was cheaper. That's why a lot of the people opted to go for it. But it was more difficult in terms of conversion and setup. Once it was set up, extremely capable machine, right? For example, Sydney Olympic Park achieved 21 meters, 750 diameter, snorkel pretty much fully in the ground. In Melbourne, it achieved some great records as well. It drilled in really hard material where they were drilling with huge Liebherr machines there. And our 60-ton rig, much smaller, was still doing the job. Not as fast, of course, but was still getting through it because it was really hard rock in CFA. So yeah, it really depends on the type, I guess, what you want to put in balance, the conversion, the capability, or the price. I can absolutely assure you there's no rig out there that's the perfect rig. It just doesn't exist. It hasn't been invented yet. It's either expensive, it's either cheap but maybe not as good quality, or the capability maybe is not there, or the safety. There's always a trade-off. I think IMT offers a very, very good balance between let's say the value for money, what they offer, and that's why I continue to support them throughout the years. And that's why we're now, by the way, we're very close to be at almost 50 IMT machines since 2018. So that's a huge achievement. And out of this 50 IMTs, I would say probably about half of them have come with CFA. So a huge learning curve there for us, that's for sure, for IMT at the beginning, when we started dealing with them. But we're definitely at the point now where we have a very, very good improved product that's adapted to the Australian market. That's it for today, guys. This was the CFA Types episode. I hope you found this beneficial. Please let me know if you have any questions. Please let me know if you have any suggestions for us to talk about here at TerraQuip Talk. If there's a topic that you want to come in and talk, you're more than welcome to come sit next to me. We'll have an interesting conversation. Or if there's a topic that you want me to tackle, I'm happy to learn about it. Because as I said earlier, the purpose for this is also for me to learn. I've learned so much in this last year that I've been doing the podcast, and I'll continue to do so. Until next time, stay safe, and please remember, if you're not earning, you're not earning. Hey, thank you again for watching this episode. I hope you found this interesting. Now, if you guys are someone that have an interesting topic to talk about, or an interesting application, or an interesting technology or piece of equipment, and you want to share with us here with the audience at TerraQuip Talk, please hit me up. I'll be more than happy to hear from you. I'm always open to hearing new ideas about technologies, about how we can make things safer, first of all, in our industry, more efficient, and just better overall. So if you have an idea, please hit me up. Send me a message. You know where to find us.